you being able to build a team with people that are actually going to do this at a high level is far more efficient and effective than trying to just recruit everybody because you want to have a big agency.
If you have 10,000 leads, like you should probably have a team of people calling them. But if you have a certain limited amount, like you might as well call it yourself. And no one can set an appointment or work a lead better than you can. So
You could be the greatest salesperson in the world, but people will sell themselves far more effectively than you will sell them. That's for sure.
that's correct. It's just doing what you need to do. Like no agent likes making calls to carriers or sending out $2 postcards to someone because it's their birthday. But that's the stuff that allows you to stay in the game longer than someone who just needs to get to the next call to write a next policy to get their next paycheck.
Welcome to the Blueprint, brother. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Fantastic.
Happy to be on. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you making it down here, bro. So, you're an insurance agent. Can you walk me through your best month in sales, how long you've been in the industry, and the most you've ever made in a month as an insurance agent?
Cool. So best month submit or best month submit was around 220.
Nice.
And that was back in January. And then that was obviously the most I got paid as well. Some of it was landing in February. So I deposited 92,000.
Okay. You submitted 220 on your own pen.
Yeah.
I don't care about your story anymore. I want to know how you did that. So, and I think everybody else does too. We'll kind of circle back to how you got into the industry in a second. But
yeah.
How long you been doing this?
Year and a half.
And 92,000 obviously by far life-changing, I would imagine.
100%.
Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of break that month down. We'll make this podcast about that, and we're completely improvising here. But
yeah.
What was what's your second best month?
Second best month was the month after that. Wrote about 130, issued like 110.
Okay, so February. I guess my question would be more like, what was your best month prior to your 200?
Before that, it was December, and I wrote 50, 60, something like that.
It sounds like so little, but it's so much.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. All right, so what changed from December to January?
Leads.
Lead flow, lead type?
Lead source.
Okay.
Found a new lead source.
Nice. What type of lead are you working?
IUL leads.
Okay, so you did this in IUL. Simplified issue mostly. What type of carrier?
Yeah, mostly simplified issue. Mutual of Omaha.
Okay.
Americo. Ameritas.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. And are these mostly one-call closes? Are you setting appointments? Kind of walk me through. Let's break it in parts. Right. Walk me through what your schedule looks like first. Or what it looked like that month. Your kind of like your workflow, and then obviously what it took to be able to close that many appointments.
Yeah. So
how many sales?
January. I trusted in the lead source. I had seen it work for other people, so I was like, I'm just going to give it a full shot. So got a Google spreadsheet, started at 0, and every new lead that came in, I made sure to call them once in the morning, once in the afternoon, once in the evening. And I just did that from 0 leads to I probably had 100 around the end of the month. And
so you did that with 100 leads.
Correct.
What was your ad spend or your costs?
2,500 a week.
All right, so you spent 10 grand basically.
Yeah,
you wrote 220.
9. Yeah, so there's around 220.
Just to do basic math. If you got a 10x return, it would have been 100. So you got like a 22x return on production and on
income.
And 10x, on income, you got basically a 10x.
Yeah, correct.
That's insane. Yeah, best lead ever. Okay, fantastic. So now we can backtrack to the beginning. I think we need to get that out of the way.
Of course.
What you do before insurance?
I was working at Raising Cane's for $15 an hour.
How old are you, Omari?
I just turned 19.
Holy F.
The end of last year. Yeah.
So I made $92,000 on 19. Why are you here? When I was 19, if I made 92 grand, I would be in Dubai right now or something.
Dubai is on my list. That's the number one spot.
I just went last year. It was dope. Okay, so awesome. How long did you work at Raising Cane's for?
I was there for about a year and a half. Like as soon as I was like 16, I went and started there. It was the first one that opened in Florida, out in Homestead, actually.
So you're from down here?
Yeah.
Originally? Where'd you go to school?
I went to school, let's see. High school, that was in South Korea because I've moved around a lot. So my dad was in the military, so we've moved 10 different times. But if I had to say I was from somewhere, it'd be here because in between moving, we would always travel to our grandparents' house, which is out here, Kendall.
Gotcha. So you lived in South Korea?
Yeah, I lived in South Korea, Louisiana, Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina, New York.
Military family, so it makes a lot of sense. Just the way your posture alone shows discipline, which obviously I would imagine ties big time into the level of success you're having now.
Appreciate that.
Awesome. All right. Okay. Cool. So, 19, at 16, you start getting a job. Like probably most high schoolers, you want to make some chump change, make sure you have money. Did you
Anything.
like sports? Did you have any other interests growing up other
Ye
than?
Yeah, I played basketball, football, also ran track, and, that was all stuff that I really had
Okay.
fun at and I enjoyed excelling at, but whatever I wanted to do, I just wanted to do it at the highest level,
Gotcha.
and being in South Korea, there's not much room for an athlete to grow, unfortunately,
Yeah.
so
So
just ended up going how it did, but I still work out every day just to stay in shape and have that mental
100%.
discipline, but
100%. You're in the pros now, but it's just a different game for sure, man. Because the type of income you're seeing, it's not even 1%. It's one of the one percenters. Basically, you're on your way. Um, So, walk me through your insurance opportunity. How did you end up working for an insurance agency from working at Raising Cane's?
yeah, so it was one night I came home from an 8-hour shift where I probably made $100 and scrolling on Instagram like every 18-year-old would do at the time. And I just saw an ad of someone standing in front of a Lamborghini Urus saying, "Are you young, motivated, and do you want to make money online?" And
Check,
obviously
check, check.
I raised my hand and I just clicked on the ad. And from there, it was a captive agency. They recruit anyone, but I got accepted into the interview, and I was like, "Oh, perfect!" Like after the interview, I heard that I got accepted for the job, and I quit Canes right there. Probably had $300 in my bank account, and I spent the rest of it on my insurance license
Nice.
and testing and everything. Just had no idea how it'd go,
Were
but
you sold an opportunity? What drew you to the opportunity? What sold you on it?
I just wanted a way to make money online. I spent like 2 years before that trying to figure out how to day trade. Like, had one day where my parents gave me $1,000 to trade with, and I lost it all
Yeah.
immediately that same day. And it didn't, deter me from wanting to make money online, but it just showed me that it's going to take more than what you initially think, which
Yeah.
is how most opportunities go. But with this, it was like, what do I have to lose? I mean, worst case, I'll work there or I'll
Yeah.
go to Panera Bread. It's all the
Right.
same stuff,
100%.
When your
Yeah.
time's worth nothing, you might as well use it. And
Awesome.
that's what I did.
Yeah, it's very well said, especially for somebody your age. So you mentioned your parents getting money to day trade. Were they on board? Because you're still at an age, obviously, where like your family's heavily involved in your decision making. Especially, it seems like you come from a very good family. What were their thoughts on their insurance opportunity when you brought it to their attention?
They've always believed in the things that I've wanted to do, even when they didn't work out. They saw that I was at least thinking on the right track with things.
Right.
So, they were just told me to be cautious, be careful, but enjoy it. It was from home. Wasn't really much I could get into doing it, but they thought it was a scam for a little
So
bit, I'll
for
be
sure. I
honest.
mean,
And that's how it
yeah, yeah,
happens.
of course. And parents. And are you going to school at all? Did you pursue like a education after high school or?
No, that was another big thing. I got my associate's degree while I was in high school, but if there was any way that I couldn't go back to school or if there was anything I could do to not go back to school, like I was gonna try to figure it
Yeah.
out. That's why even being at Canes, people told me that I might be good at sales if I tried it, and I was like, "Let me try this. If it doesn't work, then I
Awesome.
was gonna go to school to become a hedge fund manager."
Nice. So that's what you had in mind. Yeah. So you've been trying to be in the money game. Obviously, that's why you were day trading. Ever watch
Absolutely.
the show Billions?
Billions? No, I've heard of it. I haven't seen
You'll
it
love it.
though.
You'll love it. Yeah, you probably don't
Nice.
have time if you're writing 200 grand a month, but, but you'll love the show if you get to watch it. So, all right. So you took the opportunity. You passed the course. You got your license. How long were you in that first agency for?
6 months,
All
either
right.
6 or 7 months,
How
something
did
like that.
how did it go?
It went well. I mean,
I'm not surprised.
my first month I wrote 5,000, which wasn't good at all, but, like, coming from like, my goal in the beginning was to have $1,000 in my bank account.
Gotcha.
Like, that's all I wanted, just to see 4 digits on the screen, and starting in that opportunity, I was getting paid, 50% comp, so it wasn't very good, but it was more than I had ever known before. So
Right.
I didn't really have anything to compare it to, but even still, like I did well. I enjoyed it for
Yeah.
sure.
What do you think was maybe it's hard to have adjustments when it's because it was kind of your first like sales gig, right? It's not like
Yeah.
you're coming from another sales gig, which is almost a blessing, I would tell you. 'Cause a lot of folks that get into like insurance, they have experience in sales. It is an adjustment. It's different than your traditional sale. Did you have any struggles at all? Like whether it was scheduling, whether it was being on the phones, presenting, closing, like Did you hit a patch where, or were you just naturally talented from the beginning?
Um, I mean, a lot of it was just putting the time in. Alex Hormozy, I have always watched him like probably since around that 15, 16 age.
Mhm.
And one thing he says a lot is if you do one thing for 90 days straight, it's hard for it not to work out at the end of those 90 days or at
100%.
least make some type of progress. And I was like, all right, cool. Quit my job at Canes, coming into this.
Good 90
Let's do
straight
it 8 a.m., 8 p.m. for 90 days straight and just see what happens. I didn't have any money expectations or anything
days.
like that, but I was just hoping I'd make some progress. And by that progress, I'd probably make some money as
Nice.
well. And lo and behold, at the end of the
Mhm.
90 days, I touched my first 10K from a laptop, which was just that
Mind
was all I
blowing.
wanted,
Yeah, it's mind blowing. If you
Yeah,
think about it, you know what I mean, 10K in a month, like,
I was like,
yeah, it's. I think the median income in America is like 42,000 or something like that. That's
yeah,
like 3 grand a month, and that's W-2. So these guys are taking home like $2,000. It's rough. All right. So first of all, I'm a big Hormozy fan myself. So I went to his workshop,
nice.
his skating workshop in February, and I'm actually going back for the second phase of it now, the 28th to 29th of July.
Okay,
So bro, it's in person is like far more impressive than what you see online.
I
Like
can
just
imagine.
being in the building is insane.
Yeah.
But so you went from being captive to being independent. Can you, for anybody who doesn't know the difference, in your own words, explain not necessarily just commission differences, obviously you get paid more, but the
Right.
difference as a producing agent between being captive and being an independent agent?
I mean, I would say most of it's just freedom. You can kind of think of it like having an iPhone versus an
Mhm.
Android. iPhone, everything's on the App Store, Safari, etc. Whereas Android, you can develop your own apps, websites, you can make it how you want it. That's kind of the same thing with the brokerage space.
Nice.
And for a brain that works like mine, I definitely feel more comfortable being able to build things how I'd like to and, you know, kind of try to put what's in my head into
Mhm.
reality,
Yeah.
which you can do a lot better.
When you say freedom, you're talking about flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I agree 100%. I love the analogy of the operating systems on the phones because it's exactly what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's probably even worse on the captive side because something that I said I'm not surprised you did well at your first company is because I am a firm believer that if you're going to be good in this industry, the system is relevant to how far you can take it, but not to like your initial success. You could go to the worst, in our opinion, the worst company ever, or to what we consider the best company ever, and you could succeed or fail solely based on you, and the system is only there to help you scale.
Correct.
That's my opinion, at least.
Correct.
I've recruited a lot of agents in my time, and I recruited a lot of failing agents from other companies, and they failed here. I've recruited some very successful ones from other companies, and sure enough, they succeeded here as well.
Mhm.
Because ultimately, it's up to you, and I think you probably agree with that.
Yeah, it's not how, it's who.
For sure. And so I'm not surprised at all. But I think the other thing I would say about the independent side is when you're taking care of a client, dude, you have options. And I know that goes back to the flexibility and the approach. But to me, the biggest thing when I understood what captivity was, I wasn't concerned with the comp because everybody's got their pitch, right? So we'll give you this and you give me that. And it's each individual decides if they like that. But if I'm talking to a client and I'm an insurance salesperson and I can only sell one product, you mean to tell me that is the only product that it's the best for the client? Now, don't get me wrong, there are some clients where that product will be a good fit. But I mean, I've never been captive, so I'm only speaking from what I think. You live this.
Uh,
For your clients, how much of a difference is it now that you just have the flexibility of offering literally any type of product?
it's everything.
Yeah,
I can genuinely put people in the best position versus just having to say that over the
yeah,
phone.
for sure.
And every time we hear someone who has a policy from a big captive agency, we already know that we can probably beat their rates by a lot.
100%.
So
And
it's
put them in
just
a way better spot, which is
yeah,
the most important.
exactly.
All right. So, all right, let's get to the fun stuff. How you actually sell so much. So you walk me through your lead flow or your work, your lead spend, which we're in the $10,000 monthly range. Has that maintained, you would say?
Yeah, so just 2,500 a week
Okay.
with that source every
Mm,
single week.
fantastic.
Clockwork. Worth it.
Maybe if people want your source, just DM him. I'll tag him on this video. That way, he can recruit you, and then he can give you a source. Because that's gonna be the first question that everybody asks. I won't ask you that on camera.
Yeah.
But as far as client interaction, like, and how you get a hold of them. One, are you making the dials? Are you working with an appointment setter? Kind of walk me through your prospecting process, and then after that, we can just go straight into like some of the things that you think make you successful on the phones or on presentations. If you're doing Zoom or phone calls, but to close these clients. So how you get them on the phone in the first place, and then what makes you difference? Maybe a couple things you could point out that gives you that's made you successful that you can share with everyone.
Yeah, as far as getting them on the phone, this is probably an error, but it's just personal preference. Like I've never
Mm,
used a dialer or anything
mm,
like that. Like I just personally call myself.
mm.
So
I think that's a good thing actually.
yeah, yeah, it depends. Like if you have 10,000 leads, like you should probably have a team of people calling
Mhm.
them. But if you have a certain limited amount, like you might as well call them yourself, and no one can set an appointment or work a lead better than you can. So
100%. I think the answer is if you're not lazy.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's what really happens. Dialing, it's not fun. And
it's
so
not.
we find excuses to, oh, I'm just going to hire a dialer because my time is better served. But the reality, I think, is everybody's just trying to avoid it. So I'm glad you said that. All right. And then what sets you, like, what makes you unique on the phones? Like, what pointers can you give to somebody who's getting these clients on the phone? As far as, whether that's tonality, whether that's the way you kind of present the product, they kind of give us a little bit of insight into how you work a sale and a presentation.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is really just trying to be as disarming as possible with your tone. You
Okay.
know, a lot of what's taught in the industry nowadays, and what I was taught first was to just be aggressive,
Mhm.
tell them this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, blah, blah, blah. But most people respond better when you're able to ask them questions that kind of point them towards wanting it for themselves versus just telling them, hey, you need this. Hey, you need that, being able to kind of guide people
Can you give
in a
me an example
disarming
of one of
way.
those questions, for example?
Yeah. So let's say I'm talking to you, you've been looking into IULs for a while and kind of just haven't been able to get it done. We're getting towards the latter end of the call. We've broken down the product, your health, why it would work for you. I would ask you a question like, well, hey, Joseph, I mean, I know this is something that you've been looking into for a while. Like, why is this something that you would take care of now? Like, why not maybe wait until next month or even next year? Because no one's going to make you.
It's almost like you're getting the objections before they give them to you with that
Yeah.
question for
Yeah,
sure.
and then they would go on to explain, "Oh, well, you might as well just get it done now." And now instead of you having to tell them that, they told it to you, so they have to stand on
100%.
that. People put their ego before anything.
Yeah, you could be the greatest salesperson in the world, but people will sell themselves far more effectively than you will sell them. That's for
That's
sure.
correct. Even myself, like if I
Uh,
walk into a store and I want something, like I know that I want it, but if someone walked up to me and tried to sell it, like I might walk out
yeah,
without it,
for sure.
you know?
Yeah,
So it's just letting people lead themselves,
mm,
but guiding them
yeah,
properly to do that.
for sure. And what do you think the most common, if any at all, at this point? Because obviously you're really good at this. Objection that you get from clients would be. What are some of the more common ones, and how do you overcome those?
It depends because, there's some objections that are actual objections and then some of them are fear-based. So if I had to say the number one objection that I would get, it would probably be talking to spouse,
Okay.
which that's going to happen. You usually can't get around that, but sometimes, you can probe a little deeper and then be like, hey, so this conversation you have with them, is this more of like a FYI or do you
Mhm.
genuinely need their permission? And if it's more of an FYI, then that's something that you can kind of
Right. You
push
can push a
through.
little harder.
But if they genuinely need the permission, then, we
Yeah.
may have to schedule another call.
I'm gonna tell you what I think, and you tell me if I'm right. So I see a lot of people one overcoming the wrong objection many, many times. So a lot of times it might not be that. That's just kind of like the way to control the phone. So that's one. But two, you mentioned something interesting. If you can get around it, you kind of just try to circle back, schedule, I'm assuming a follow-up appointment, something like that. A lot of agents will actually burn the deal trying to overcome it because they're desperate for the deal or they just really want to close it. Would you say that the fact that you're investing so heavily into marketing, into leads, and you have a decent lead flow, obviously for the amount of money you spend, that gives you a posture where you're not desperate to close that deal because you know that if it's meant to be, you'll close it. Otherwise, it's a waste of your time. Would you say that?
Correct. Yeah. And it gives you a mindset of like not needing to close the deal. And people on the other side of the phone can feel that and can
Perceive that?
sense that. And they'll want to work with you more when they can tell that your interest is not vested in them
Mhm.
making a certain decision.
Nice. Have you ever, as far as asking for the deal at the end of the sale, any pointers as far as like at what point do you push for the application? Do you get them to say yes, I'm interested? Like how to kind of walk us through how you close the sale once you presented all the options.
Yeah, once we've, looked at all the options, I'll kind of explain like, hey, so, based on what we're looking at, it looks like XYZ would make the most sense for you. Don't really have much left for you from here. From here, if you feel it's appropriate, what we could do is go ahead and submit a free application to the carrier. When I say free, I mean that we don't charge any broker fees, agent fees. The only thing you'd be responsible for is that monthly premium to the carrier if you do get approved. Would that be appropriate, or how would you like to proceed from here? And if you talk to them properly, they'll just say yeah. And then
Do you experience any issues with like post dates, like on the first draft?
I used to, like a while ago, I would kick stuff out to next year if I could, but I realized that anything that's paying after 7 days, like there's a 50% chance of it not going through. So
100%.
at this point, carrier's going to take it within now to 7 days, and anything outside of 7 days, like, they can't approve.
Yeah.
So it's just
And I think it goes back to the posture of like, because what I teach and what I train to, be to listen, nobody goes through a 45-minute presentation not thinking they're going to pay for something. Like, I think it's common sense.
correct.
So ultimately, I think new agents, and maybe you made this mistake, right? You haven't been at this that long, where
Yeah.
it's almost like a closing tool. It's you're afraid to be like, hey, you got to pay for insurance. Doo it's obvious. But so listen, we can push it out to the first of next month. And it's like, today's the second, dude. What are you doing? And then I agree. I think in my life, I never tracked how many chargebacks from the ones I post dates, but I promise you 80% of the chargebacks I have had in my life were post dates,
Yeah.
guaranteed,
Yeah.
because people forget about it. It's almost like pushing it out as a way of telling you no without having to tell you no, and I'll deal with it later. And it happens.
Exactly.
Love that. All right, let's talk about retention a little bit. How do you deal with persistency? Does your business stick? Are you having struggles with that? And any tips that you have as far, because it must be a lot. I mean, customer service in the life side is not hard, but you are
It
writing an
really
insane
isn't.
amount of policies. So I'm assuming you do have to deal with, like,
Yeah,
things
calls.
that, yeah, just do you have a system in place for that, or you still kind of just maneuver it on your own?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it starts with just the mindset you have about the sale that you made. Like, yes, you're getting advance money, but you're getting advance, let's just say $2,000 to take care of that person for at least the next 12 months. And when you look at it like that, it doesn't seem so bad. Because if you told me that you'd pay me $5,000 to just answer your calls probably 5 times over the next year, I mean, I'd take that deal,
Oh,
and you'd probably
100%.
take it the other way around. So when you look at it like that, it's not really that bad.
Mhm,
Yes, it does add up, but it's just doing what you need to do.
mhm.
Like,
That's the
no
job.
agent likes making calls to carriers or sending out $2 postcards to someone because it's their birthday, but that's the stuff that allows you to stay in the game longer than someone who just needs to get to the next call to write a next policy to get the
100%.
next paycheck.
So it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think that's what a lot of people miss in this business.
Yeah.
As far as so you mentioned sending out postcards, is there anything else you do? Like, do you do like follow-ups? Do you do like check-ins every so often?
Yeah.
Anything like that?
6-month policy reviews. So 7 days after, I'll call them just to make sure that they're good, make sure that they got their policy folder. I'll also make sure that my information was sent to their beneficiaries so that when they pass away, they can call me. And then from there, the next time we'll speak is 6 months and then 12 months.
Gotcha. And that's awesome, because I'm assuming that brings referrals and additional business, right?
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I also have a 1 month newsletter. Well, for a year, every single
Really?
month, it'll send an email to
I
them
love that.
about something that has to do with their policy.
Right.
A lot of it's just them not forgetting who you are.
Keeping you top of mind.
Like,
Yeah.
if someone calls you and you haven't spoke to your agent in 10 years and they have a better product, it's like, oh, well, he doesn't care about me,
Yeah.
whatever.
No
But
good
if
with
you've
them.
stayed in contact, if they've seen something with your name on it every month for the last 10 years, like, nah, man, I'll talk to Omari. That sounds
Yeah.
great, but let me see if he has it,
100%. Yeah.
you
You
know?
earned yourself the chance to at least, give first right of refusal on that client.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly.
Fantastic. As far as Amari, are you looking to recruit actively? Are you building a team? Or are you mostly just on the production side? Kind of what's your plan with on that end?
I am starting to build a team. We have about 10, 15 people right now,
Nice. Good
but
for you.
it's not something that I'm pushing. My main goal with it is just to be able to give
Mm,
people the gift that this industry has given me.
mm,
I know if I had no people, I could write a lot immediately.
100%.
So
Yeah.
it's being able to recruit and build from a perspective of, you know, genuinely just trying to help people change their lives versus like, I need you to make me money. It's a lot different,
Oh,
and people can feel
100%.
that and sense that.
100%. The biggest mistake people make is they try to recruit to get out of the field, myself included, it will humble you quick. I didn't write for a whole year and I had to get right back on the phones. Well, I had to get on the phones for the first time because I used to do face to face and figure that out because otherwise I would not have had a business. And so I can speak from experience, and you're doing this spot on because the reality is you don't need the money, right? It's not like you're going to stop writing because you produce at such a high level that the production you changes your life. I mean, you don't live the same since you made 92 grand in a month that you did before that. And probably even before you got in this, since probably the time that you made 10 grand in a month, automatically like your quality of life changes. And it might be the small things, because some people are flashy than others. I don't know what you spend your money on,
It is the little things.
but like just being able to order Uber Eats without thinking about it and
Exactly.
putting your bills on auto pay.
That's what it is.
Like those are the
Yeah.
things that I think people, they see the flash and the cars, and some people don't like cars. Some people do like cars. Some people have expensive cars and they're broke, and some people are rich and have cheap cars. Like
Yeah, it's
doesn't
all
really,
stuff.
it's a freedom money brings, right? And
Yeah.
you being able to build a team with people that are actually going to do this at a high level is far more efficient. It might take a little longer, but it's far more efficient and effective than trying to just recruit everybody because you want to have a big agency.
Yeah.
I
Agreed.
had a guy tell me once, and this really, really resonated with me because of where I come from. That you worked there for a while too, where it was all volume, volume, volume. He said, "Man, you want to have a big business to make big money, not to say you have a big business." And dude, when he told me that, it's like I found like my calling in this
Yeah.
industry. I'm like, yeah, we're doing this all wrong.
Yeah.
We're trying to get all this volume that doesn't really translate to money for me. And then it's good on paper. Hey, I did this many millions in a month, and it looks fantastic. But are you actually getting paid? And the folks that have built this the right way, which is a handful of them, it's you could tell. And the
Yeah.
ones that are struggling because they have big numbers and don't really make money, you could tell as well. And if I had to give you any advice today, it would be that like, don't stop writing. Yes, recruit, but recruit folks are going to be players and they want the opportunity because that override is not going to compare to the override you have on your own pen. Not even close.
Correct. 100%.
All right, cool. If I am looking to get into the industry, why would I want to work with you?
Why would you want to work with me? I mean,
Yeah,
good
why should
question.
I work with you?
Why should you?
Yeah.
I mean, it really depends, on what your situation is and whether or not it would make sense. But
Mhm.
if you should, I would say just be ready to work hard and learn. That's all you really need. There are prerequisites, but you'd have to know the person to tell them whether or not they could, because I don't really believe that anyone can do this, but anyone who has the ability to do it and the ability to work hard can.
Yeah.
And that's what matters, and that's what'll
Yeah.
take you further than
I love that answer.
having initial ability.
And my thing with anybody could do that, I actually do think anybody could do this, but I don't think it's for everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
there really isn't like a specific skill set that you need. Because I've had people that I'm like, I don't know if they're gonna make it, but they're putting in the work. And bro, from one day to the next, it just clicks, and it might have taken you a week, but it'll take somebody else 3 months.
Mhm.
But I've seen very talented people that I'm like, this dude's gonna be a freaking killer. And 3 months later, they're not here anymore.
They're gone.
They're just not for them. And I
Yeah.
do think work ethic, the grind keeps score. We say that a lot, and it does keep score.
Yep.
Because you'll see somebody. The worst thing I see is when they get beginner's luck and they have a big week, the first week, and they just think that that's how this is. And you know better than I do that it's not.
Yeah.
I kind of getting to wrap up some of the topics I want to cover on as far as controlling your emotions. Because I'm interested to see how you handle that. You seem to be very level-headed. Obviously, I think your background in athletics, moving around, and your family is a military family, probably plays a huge role in that. But you are
Yes.
19 years old, and at 19, most 19-year-olds, especially males, we mature later than women.
We do.
We're not the most mature typically. This is a roller coaster of emotions as businesses. One day
Yeah.
you write a lot, then the next day, three of those clients are calling it a cancel. You have a chargeback, and you have a policy getting rescinded. You're like, what the hell? Why is the world coming? Caving in.
Yeah.
How do you handle trying to stay level-headed in this business?
Good question. I mean, a lot of it was realizing that I came into this business with $0, so everything beyond that is kind of a bonus.
Yeah.
But also knowing where to place my sense of validation. It's never been off of AP. That's why even my leaders in the past, they would be like, what's your commit? Like, how much are you writing? Like, I don't know. If nobody picks up the phone this week, I'm gonna write 0, and that's not my fault. So a lot of it is just placing your validation in the things that you can control. Like when I first started, I printed out God knows how many sheets with 1,000 squares for each
For the
one to be a
dials?
dial.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I felt like at least 10 sheets for my first 10,000 dials. And then I stopped because I realized, okay, I know how to do this.
Right.
But a lot of it's just controlling the controllables and feeling good about doing what I could to succeed today. Not whether or not it actually worked out, but it's just focusing on the inputs, and the outputs just take care of themselves.
Fantastic. Freaking $10,000 is a lot, bro. I don't know if I ever thought that much in my life. I want you to know that what you do, I think you think it's like normal. And there's a lot of people doing it. So it's not unique, but it's definitely not normal. And you have a skill set, Omari, that I think you said it earlier. You learn how to do something that can forever make you money. So as long as you do things ethically, you probably will never have a money issue again in your life, which is insane to say to a 19-year-old. Um, Last question, and we'll wrap up here. It's almost impossible to ask the question I always ask because this to you was like last year. I always ask what will you tell your 18-year-old self?
Oh, shoot.
Yeah,
That's
so
funny.
but I'll ask you anyway. What would you tell your 16-year-old self working? If you could give your 3 years ago starting a job at Raising Canes because you want to make some
Yeah.
money and advice knowing what you know now, what would that advice be?
I mean, honestly, it would probably just to keep going
Get
because
into insurance.
get into insurance. Yeah, for sure. But even back then, like, honestly, I would say back then I was working harder than I was at 18. Like, my schedule was so dialed. I was just doing the wrong things. Like, I would wake up at 5 a.m., meditate, work out, 4 hours of deep work on schoolwork, try to trade, fail, go to sleep, wake up, do it again so consistently. But I was just in the wrong vehicle, doing the wrong thing. So I didn't get any, external validation from it for doing it so long. And that's what kind of knocked me off the horse with that. But it probably would have just been to keep doing that, but do the right thing. So there's
100%.
probably people that are watching this video that are putting in the work, but they're not in the right vehicle to actually see anything from it. So take some time to reflect and realize that it may not be you, it may be what you're doing. And that's hard to admit, especially if it's something that you've put a lot of time into. But one thing I've learned from trading is to just cut your losses quick, and you can do that with anything in your life. So if you see that it's not going anywhere, just stop.
Yeah, done
You
well
leave
on it.
here, you go out the door. It's okay. We're one person on a gigantic planet. Nobody cares.
I love that, bro. Dude, you know what we should really do?
What?
I'm a 4-year-old son. I need to go podcast with your parents and be like, I need some parenting advice because it's impressive. They raise obviously you're a successful, impressive young man, and I didn't know you were 19 walking in here. I'll be completely honest with you. I think I asked. I figured you were in your early 20s, maybe.
That's crazy.
Because I was just you were referred to me by people that obviously know that you're crushing it. But dude, you're doing an amazing job, and
Thank you so
sky is the
much.
freaking limit. Just keep your head down, keep working.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for
Absolutely.
jumping on, brother.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.